Hello everyone, my name is Luna. I'm 35 years old and I'm a hospice nurse. I've been a hospice nurse for the last 10 years. This is a story about a young woman I took care of that I became very close to. The patient in question was 23 years old and was dying of liver cancer. She was given about 6 months when she was told she was terminal and put on hospice. I started going to her house twice a week at first, and we really liked each other. As she started slowly going downhill, I started coming more and more until I was there every day. Most of the time we would just sit and talk. She was a very pretty girl with long black hair and blue eyes. She was very athletic and active before she got her cancer. Not being able to do things or get around without help was very hard for her. She always wore a minty smelling perfume. That's important for later. I was with her the day she died, and that was a very hard day for me. I got home pretty late that day, and I made dinner for myself and sat down in the living room in front of the TV. I'd been sitting there for about 5 minutes when I smelled a minty smell that was just like my patient's perfume. Then, I heard a cough, and then a female voice called my name. I looked over towards the kitchen, and there was my patient standing beside the kitchen counter. She looked at me, and she was smiling. Then she waved at me and disappeared. I think that it was just her way of saying she was okay. I sometimes still to this day feel like she's watching over me, as sometimes I feel like I'm being watched, and I smell her perfume, especially if I've had a hard day. Let me know what you guys think. I have been a long-term hospice nurse, and I have seen things that made me a believer in the afterlife. This is one of my favorite experiences. This is a story about Hilda, my little old lady hospice patient who lived in an Odessa, Texas nursing home. This is also a story about Claude, who was her son, but also my hospice patient and lived at home in Midland, Texas with his wife Joni. Yes, Mother Hilda and son Claude were both dying at the same time in 2 separate places, 20 miles apart. And poor wife and daughter-in-law Joni was trying to take care of both, and was doing a great job at it. Between the two, Hilda the mom and Claude the son, I really expected Claude to go first. He was confused. He would still get up a little bit, but now he was weak, and he just looked sick. I really expected to be seeing him for maybe a couple of weeks before I anticipated him dying. His mother, Hilda, all things considered, was doing relatively well. I really thought that I might be seeing her for 2, if not 3 months, maybe even longer. She had been a long-term resident in the nursing home with Alzheimer's. It just continued to take its toll on her to the point where she was almost bedbound. And yes, she stopped eating as much and had been losing weight, and she was very confused. But she was pleasantly confused. I would typically see her twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays, normally after seeing her son on the same day. And each time I would have to reintroduce myself to her, and we would chat for a while, and sometimes she would tell me about the same stories from her youth over and over again, but she never failed to bring a smile to my face. And, due to her confusion, she would sometimes just come out with things that really showed her confusion, such as, "I'm going to go play baseball at the park this weekend," when obviously, just getting out of bed was almost beyond her. But she was an amazingly sweet lady, even if she didn't remember who I was each time, and sometimes came out with things that didn't make sense. And like I said, I didn't expect her to die anytime soon. I really thought that she would just continue to slowly decline, and probably in a couple of months, I expected her to die peacefully, but sadly, to outlive her son. So one Friday I made my stop to check in on son Claude, and he was doing okay. I made sure his pain was controlled and his breathing was okay. His wife Joni was also doing an amazing job. I let her know that I was on my way to go see Hilda, and I'd see them back the following week. I drove over to the nursing home, checked in with the staff, and they said Hilda was doing fine, maybe even happier than normal. I was in a bit of a hurry and running behind, and I knew I wouldn't have much time to visit Hilda that day. I went into her room. She greeted me with, "Hi, I'm Hilda." "Hi Hilda, I'm Chingrn, and I'm a nurse. I was coming by to see how you are today." "Well, I think I'm good. Are you hungry? Have you eaten?" "Oh yes, dear. I think I had some pancakes and sausage." "Very good, Hilda. Do you have any pain today?" "No. You know I never have any pain. Who are you?" "I'm Chingrn, and I'm a nurse. So I'm going to check your blood pressure and listen to you breathe. If that's okay?" "Of course, honey. Do what you need to, but I really don't think I need a doctor or a nurse." I checked her vitals. Everything was good. No obvious signs of distress, no pain. Hilda was in great shape, relatively speaking. "All right, Hilda, it looks like you're doing well. I saw Claude and Joni this morning, and they are doing well. I'll plan on seeing you next week. Well, I must inform you that my son, the one on 145th Street, said he was meeting me up at the gate today at 2. He's taking me home. I won't be here." So, knowing the condition Claude was in, I knew there was no way he was getting her. And besides, she said 145th Street. There was no numbered streets in Midland, and even Odessa streets didn't go that high. And it was noon by then. There would no way even Joni would be coming over to get her. Sweet Hilda, confused as always, but I guessed she had something to look forward to. But at least Hilda looked good. I enjoyed my visit with her and was glad I would be able to keep seeing her for a while more. Okay, Hilda. I'll see you next week." "Okay, but I won't be here." I gathered my bag and stethoscope, said bye to the nursing home staff, and drove back to Midland to start seeing my afternoon patients. At 2:15, I got a call from the nursing home. I figured they just need a refill on her medication. I called and talked with her nurse, Annie. Mr. Chingrn, it's Hilda. I just went to check in on her, and she's dead. We had seen her about 30 minutes earlier, and she was fine. We walked back in. Well, she was just gone. I was shocked. Over the years, I had become really good at predicting when my patients would die. And yes, she was sick, but I never expected her to die that day, or even that week or month. I thought back to her conversation, about her son meeting her at the gate. I called Joni's number. She answered and let her know that it sounded like Hilda had passed. Joni was sad, but not overly surprised. I guess, when anyone is 102, it's not a terrible surprise. I told her I was going back over to officially pronounce her, and Joni told me she would meet me. I asked about Claude, and she said he was fine. They had just been visiting, and she wasn't sure if she would tell him yet or not. I drove back to the nursing home, checked on Hilda, and sure enough, just like the staff had said, she was gone. Joni showed up just a bit later, and after some hugs, she told Hilda goodbye and that she and Claude loved her. We stepped out into the hall. I told her that I was surprised that it had happened so quickly, but looked like she had gone very peacefully. I told her about our last conversation. "Joni, it was strange that she said she was going to meet her son at the gate at 2, and that's almost exactly when she died. I thought first maybe Claude had died and met her, but it sounds like that's not the case. But then, I really think it was just her confusion, because she said her son on 145th, and you all don't live on 145th, so I guess it was just her confusion talking. Joni shook her head. No, she was talking about her other son, Claude's brother. He lived on 145th Street in Lubbock. He died about 5 years ago, and it sounded like he was meeting her at the gate today at 2 to bring her home. I was shocked, speechless. Claude would go on to die a couple of weeks later, and then Joni a couple of years after that. And each time I would think about all of them gathering at the gate to welcome each other home. I was with my fiancé for almost 12 years before he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Towards the end, he was sent home from the hospital and put on in-home hospice care. It was only a matter of time. The first night home, after everyone visiting had left, I was home alone with him. I could tell he was slowly losing his mind. The cancer had spread, because he was saying things that didn't make sense. For example, he would pick up an imaginary item, hand said item to me, and say, "Here, put this in your purse." Anyways, I was sitting in a chair next to the hospice bed when he said, "Why is she here?" while looking past me. I asked who, and he said, "Your Gram." My grandmother lived where we lived. We moved in after she was put in an assisted living facility because she had dementia, and she passed away in 2017. I told him to follow her and see what she wanted, but he got so scared, saying he doesn't want to go. The next night sitting next to him, he asked me, "Who are they?" I asked who, and he said, "In the hallway," but nothing was there. A few nights later, he saw my grandmother again. This time he wasn't scared, but I didn't press him further, considering his mind was still failing, and he would get easily stressed. I remember thinking, of all people, why is he seeing my grandmother and not any of his departed relatives or friends? He passed away the next morning, holding my hand and surrounded by family. As if it all wasn't creepy to begin with, he died on the 4th anniversary of my grandmother's death. It's been 2 years since he passed, and I still sense him, especially at night when I'm in bed. I feel him in the corner of the room, just watching me. Sometimes I'll say out loud, "Please don't scare me," and I'll feel his presence walk across the room, out the door. I have since moved, and I feel him there as well. I don't exactly see him, but I know exactly how he's dressed and how he looks now. He looks healthy again, like his old self. I'm wondering why he hasn't moved on, but my guess is he's waiting to make sure I'm truly okay and happy,